is invaluable. It's so I would encourage you to think about it in those expanded terms of mental health and benefits of contact in such an isolating time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I thank you, because I think that is something that we should give ourselves some credit for, especially when we opened. How important it was to have a place for people to go and to get out of their homes and to connect over our s'mores packets in the winter. And we, and our community tables, like it's all intentional. We built it to be like a living room on purpose.
Yeah. And the outdoor space was definitely something we kind of thought about before we opened. And then the pandemic happened and we're like, oh no, like we got to get some picnic tables. I literally bought 5 and I'm like, I'm going to do more than 5. But it also made us realize like we have like a gem. It is very unheard of to have this type of just natural outdoor space. Obviously, people have created outdoor space with parking lots and their front sidewalks and things like that, but very, very rarely do you have a giant green space in Detroit, let alone in the state, just because we don't have enough seasons to make it, worth the while for businesses. But it also sparked the idea of doing more outdoor events. So, and a lot of them we still continue to do. So we have yoga every Saturday morning at 9, which started outside. And then once we finish this space, it continues all year round. We do a lot of different fitness events throughout the summer months. And then still down here, we work with a local organization called 360 Detroit. And they're here every Wednesday doing either Zumba, yoga. They've got a hustle line dance class. They're doing art classes in here. We also host a grief group once a month down here. We really have kind of honed in on a lot of things that the community has asked for. And we've got a farmer's market. We just finished our 3rd season of the farmer's market.
I mean, house night is like spiritual for a lot of people. To have dance and to move and to let your body go, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely house night Thursdays in the summer, June through August. It is wild, but it is just positive vibes like all around. And I think we know how important it is, especially during that pandemic, that we needed to give people a place to go because they needed to get out of their same 4 walls. Especially if you're a parent, you needed to get away from your family for maybe 5 minutes, just take a little walk, grab a cup of coffee. But it really resonated and has built on since then. We have so many people who have moved here, so many stories that we hear about. Your son's best friend, Ezra. These are like neighbor connections. They live 2 blocks away from each other, and now they're inseparable. So it's really cool to be able to bring people together and continue to do so. And hopefully there's some connections that are made after today's event too. That's all we can really do and hope for.
And speaking of connectivity, do you have a follow-up? Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, I think you all are being modest. And I know you may not see things that are happening, but business transactions are going through the congregation constantly. I've come here and found tenants for like multifamily units that I have, and I've seen artists come and do things here. So it's really a economic engine and an incubator. And they model. I can see how Tech Town is kind of just doing its thing in this space, but I think maybe it would be good for you to take inventory of like the business incubation that's happening.
That's awesome. Thank you. You're right. Again, I think we're trying to do a better job of celebrating more of the wins.
You can take it from us because we're both very guilty of this, but we feed off of each other sometimes. For every like 20 positive comments, like that one
We will-
negative.
Yeah.
We will go back and
It's
forth.
like weeks,
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
We're like, how do we fix this? And
Yeah.
it's like positive and, but extremely negative for us, or like hard on
It's very
us.
personal.
Yeah, because we put so much into building this space, and so like that one negative, it's just like,
And that's on us.
yes,
on us.
that's our own.
There's 99% positive things that happen here.
Well, that's a-
Thank you for the
give them a
reminder.
friend, you know, like,
Can you just stand at the
Yeah.
front door
Yeah.
and just
Like-
greet people? Well,
We're producing jobs now. So, and speaking of that, I wonder if, I wonder if the connected proposition, because of the funding that's in mental health,
Mhm.
have you looked at those kinds of revenue streams? You're doing it. Oh, you should. You're doing it.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you know about those? The revenue streams that are out there for revenue from the federal government for mental health, particularly for education and young people? Something to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of groups and support
Sure,
work here.
you're doing it already.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, and we don't recognize what those funds are for when they say mental health,
You're right.
right? You're demonstrating mental health right now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And you're doing that on top of,
Sure.
on behalf of. There might be a return on that because you can't find that, generally speaking, in community. You have to send them somewhere.
Yeah.
They have to go somewhere, to a school, to a third party support that charges an arm and a leg in a lot of instances. And really, it's not motivated by hope. It's motivated by dollars, which is a big difference in the delivery model. It's a thought. Anybody else got anything? So
I'd love to hear Eric's thought. Eric, do you have any reflections from your background as a treasurer and thinking about dollars for small?
My pondering has been as I'm coming down the stairs, thinking about the farming work that you do and what support the system provides to that entrepreneur to be able to supply you with your needs. And I'm a farm boy from a small village, Stockbridge area is where I grew up. And something that has stuck with me, because there's this urban rural divide within food culture also, is one of my friends, Terry Dancer from the Dancer fashion thing 100 years ago, came out to the farm. We walked down the lane to a field, and my brothers at the time were growing potatoes. And this is this kid from a 1,200 person town in Stockbridge. He didn't know that a potato grew underground. And so the notion that we understand food in a big city, let alone a small farm, it just is such a way to build community. You're doing that here in so many ways, obviously growing and those type of things are out there. But it just seems like that would be a very powerful support network to feed into the work that you're doing. And land banks in Genesee County and Ingham County and Wayne, Detroit, try to do a fair amount with that. It's a good way to use land rather than growing grass. You monetize it into something that can engage people and feed them, nourish their soul in many ways.
Are there models that you use with the land bank?
Well, I mean, Detroit is one of those, Detroit is one of those models that gets talked about a lot around the country. Flint and
Detroit is still the largest owner of property in the city of Detroit. Is the city.
Yeah, I mean, the land bank still has
Which is mine.
74,000
I mean, that's
properties.
crazy. No other city is like that. It's
Mhm.
wild. The rectory was a land bank property.
Was it? Okay, all right, cool.
Was it auction or it was like?
Auction it. We got really lucky. Nobody wanted it when we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
good question. I wouldn't have thought about that with a realtor in here or somebody in there, they was putting land bank.
Yeah.
How do we get rid of this one?
Other thoughts?
I mean, the one thing I'm gonna throw out there, because I think it is important to talk, when we talk about Detroit, Detroit's so unique, and this even kind of goes back to your point about projections. It's so hard, because Detroit is very much like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And that is something that's hard to tell funders that. It's hard. Nobody wanted in on this project. We had to convince people left and right.
You're selling nut.
And there's also this kind of, you know, in Detroit, I'm sure you can appreciate this too. Coming soon was like the joke of all time. Nothing like, there were signs all over the city and they never came. So I understand why the city put up a lot of the barriers that now are prohibitive, because developers weren't getting it done. You had a lot of outside investment coming in, buying up properties just to sit on them. Like there's so much money that came in from China just to buy land grab, and then they never developed anything with it. They're just, and that hurt us as well. So that's kind of the other struggle with small business in Detroit, and especially in the neighborhoods, is you really have to believe. Number one, you have to believe. You have to be so passionate, and nothing is going to get in your way, because everything's going to try and get in your way. But it really is. Because nothing makes sense. How you put projections that we're going to turn this church into a money-making thing based on what? There's no foot traffic. We don't have anything over here. Nothing's been here in 50 years. So it's just that's an added complication, but it's also what makes, I think, the entrepreneurs in Detroit so special, as it's like running through their veins. That's why I just have such a love for small business and entrepreneurs here in the city, because they're doing it based off of pure gut.
Michigan has been that kind of, in Detroit in particular. I mean, it was birthed on the last 120 years of that proposition.
Yep.
And if you grow up with that, you might just be influenced.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
Hopefully.
Any plans for a third space? Third place?
There, that's
Please, could you repeat? Could you give us that one again, Ashley? Give us that one again.
Just a space for you. Third place. That like in the scope or out.
Oh,
I
please.
think I would say yes. We don't know where it is yet. I think we've got a good thing going here. Like our partnership has been great. You know, we kind of all have our defined roles. I can think my role is really early on. It's, you know, helping with the acquisition of the property. I deal with the city. I get it up into the point of construction, and then my husband takes over from the construction side of things and really oversees that, and then the budget. And then once we get it ready to open, we pass it off to Betsy, and Betsy runs it for us. So that's really been what's worked for us, and we're lucky to have that partnership. And without that, I don't think we would do anything else. So I want to just acknowledge that, that's such an important piece of the puzzle. So right now my part just ended at the rectory. So now my husband's taking over, and then soon she will be. So that means I have like a tenth of my brain space free right now. Who knows what can happen to that? That's where it gets dangerous. That's when that's the dangerous part.
That's when the next big
When
thing
it's
arrives.
like brain space.
What do you think of this book? It's called Rare Breed, a guide to success, to defiant, dangerous, and different.
That sounds about on par.
And for the opening of this festival on Thursday at Campus Martius, Red Kent was in for the placeman, and he said you have to be a zealous nut
Yeah.
in order to get anything done. And then I had another question about what we were talking about earlier with Robert about Blackbot. We did a workshop yesterday on what the future of that I-375 is going to be, and whether or not it's just going to be another filled hole or something future oriented and based on evidence and what people love about good places. And third places are going to be essential for that if the land is not going to be devalued by just another big wide race highway or boulevard, whatever you're calling it. But just throwing that out there that hopefully we can figure out a way to make this into
consulting kind of transferable model of, so that more people can participate in creating those places. And because Black Bottom, like you said, that the Rosa Parks was an original kind of 15-minute city, they call it, but just that everything was right there, and that's how Black Bottom and Paradise Valley.
So you guys are on the 15-minute city though?
I don't know if we are.
Yeah, you are.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Oh, that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
Not like.
No, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, we're doing.
Right.
Sorry, there's like lots of, sorry, I was distracted. I got confused with like opportunity zones and that we are not in, and yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Okay. Anything else comes to mind? Aaron, you got anything that can add to?
Yeah, I totally subscribe to the entrepreneurial spirit of it.
There we go.
The great quote that came up at a conference I was at last week, that the best way to predict the future is to create it,
There we go.
which is inspirational and real, but also sort of indicative of when we're dealing with the regulatory stuff you're dealing with, which happens all over the country. There's a tendency, bankers, cities, and appraisers only do what's next based on what happened last.
Yeah,
And then therefore they're anti-innovation.
yep,
And the more we're reliant on that, the more every day that goes on, the next day looks more like the past. And we're 50, 100 years into the cycle. So there's Chipotle and Starbucks everywhere. And all of suburbia is like this mass experiment down the wrong path. So the antidote to that is scrappy stuff like this.
Yeah.
It really is. I would end also with the spirit of try to flip your chamber of commerce. Talking with Mark Manita, big booster here, as I understand it, noted that the mayor, love or hate him, I think trends towards big business, which I think probably has its need in Detroit as well.
Yeah.
But your chamber also kind of chambers everywhere tend towards big business, and we're hoping in the South they're the flip the switch so they can be productive with small businesses. And that the big difference is, I think big businesses are inherently anti-competitive. So if there's a Chipotle here, they're going to want to have category exclusivity. But small businesses like yours, I mean, I know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know the folks in North Carolina that have a place like this, 3 more coffee shops that open on the corners, and you're like, that's great.
we welcome it.
That's great.
Well, in fact, we know there's a
That's
couple that are coming and it's great.
And that's the
Rising
spirit.
tide rises all boats, and
Mhm.
everyone
Yeah.
just needs access to the boat.
And that's the spirit of cities and the spirits of urbanism that is just coming back in a grassroots way by coffee shops like this. So I appreciate it. This place is wonderful.
Awesome. My partner is going to kill me here because she has another date here, a hard quit at 3, and we need to be rolling. So if we don't have anything else, huh? Yeah, I see you already. Do you guys have any closing comments that leave us with a message or thoughts about the impending inflationary proposition or the struggle with hiring good people and being able to pay them adequately, and imagination, and well, that you can pick it up from there.
Yeah, I know, that to like summarize, is that you can't be overwhelmed by any single thing. That's my big takeaway and advice, because so much of it is out of your control, and you gotta just take it as they come.
Well said.
I was gonna say, on top of that, I remember like very early on, you know, public spaces they're just doomed for wear and tear, right? Things are gonna break. And so many times a door handle will fall off, a picture will fall off the wall, someone will drop a dish, and like probably the first year of business, it would keep me up at night because I'm like, people are doing this to me intentionally. They're clogging my toilets. My husband's having to come here to snake drains. I'm like,
I'm bringing this all
Yeah.
on myself.
So now I get a phone call at 9 o'clock at night and the toilet's clogged. I'm like, that's, oh, all right, all right.
Next.
Go unclog the toilet. And yeah, I mean, it's just like, you gotta kind of just roll with it. Being a small business owner is just like, there's always surprises. And I think it's just how you handle them and you move forward. And those little things cannot hold you down, other than the negative comments, of course. That's the one thing I can't get past. But yeah, it's really, I think it also just, it stems from, you know, if I can power through it, then my team can also power through it with me. Because we definitely are a reflection of what they're feeling that day.
Check it out.
Awesome. Going once,
We all go.
going twice, sold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Yeah. Coming down. There we go.